Okay, we are live. So I wanted to thank Helen Hamilton for being with us on the first Wednesday of every month when she's not traveling. I'll be your admin today. Reverend Shauna Summers. Sorry, forgot to mute that. I'm Reverend Shauna Summers. And we're just so happy to have you, Helen. Thank you so much for being with us and grateful for everyone for being here. And I'm going to spotlight you and hand it right over to you, Helen. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So glad to be here. Thank you, Shauna. So wonderful to be here again in the sanctuary with everyone. And I can't believe how quickly that last month has gone. Yeah, crazy. Um, Something that's been coming up a lot this week in questions, conversations that I've had is this feeling of being a separate being that keeps coming back for us, and to recognize that how the sense of a separate being sustains itself, and how to work with that without how to see that the separate being isn't really real. And as we see that, how to not add to it unconsciously, how to not sustain that sense of separation in the way that we go about it. For me, there was a long time in my journey where I had seen that the separate person, the separate mind or ego, was not really real, but it still seemed to be running most of my life. And when I looked at why that was, I really was very frustrated for a long time. If you've ever had a clear seeing, a moment or a glimpse where you recognize that there is only really this consciousness, this presence of divinity, this one self that is universal, and the idea that we are a separate person living our own life, detached from everything and everyone else, it just falls away in a moment. And we have that seeing that it's never been true. And then how do we go about living from that place? What do we do when this old thought process reestablishes itself of being a someone that's got to do something? This sense of having to do something really even permeates our spiritual practice. Even we might feel that we're doing and choosing what spiritual practice is to do. And really, it's not how it actually is. When we begin to recognize that there is only presence appearing as human beings and a world of objects, but it isn't actually really that. The world we think we see outside with our senses, and the world we think we see inside our thoughts and emotions and sensations and all of that. That's actually the presence in expression. Then probably the first thing that starts to happen is all of the old thought processes that we need to look at to, excuse me, to release are going to come rushing to the surface. And our tendency is to reject those if we have seen, even for a second, that they are not true. And these can be anything from our most mundane thinking, um, the mind's kind of cyclic, repetitive thinking that it does, or even some kind of idea that we are maneuvering and manipulating our spiritual journey, our awakening, that there's something we can do or not do to to further this seeing and deepening. But the presence, the consciousness or awareness, whatever we're calling that, in truth, all it can really do is see. All it does is see. It's here in its unmanifest form as what we really are, and it's seeing all these shapes that it's making, all these forms, from our bodies to our thoughts to emotions, and literally anything and everything we seem to perceive is this presence in disguise. And when we begin to notice this old separation thinking that comes back, sometimes it comes back really strongly because it's asking us to examine it and see if we still want to subscribe to it and believe it to be true. Could be a sense that we are not ready for awakening, or that we are not deserving of living as this presence. That there's more steps we need to do to prove that we're ready, or something like that. It could be any thinking from any of our current problems that we have, such as not having enough time, or money, or energy, or whatever thoughts are going on in our mind. And a tendency that we have then is to think that we need to do something to get rid of these thoughts, to get rid of these ways of thinking. But the truth is, if we see in our self-inquiry, or we just have a momentary glimpse, that there is only this presence that we are. And it's not an object, it's not a thing, it's everywhere, it's omnipresent. There's just the one being, the one presence. And anything we try to do is going to make us feel more separate and more detached from this presence, rather than bringing us closer to it. And if we begin to understand the power of this presence that we are, that it's not looking at things, it's not witnessing or aware as a person would, as a human being would, that it's actual just seeing of something is transformative in itself. So to look as presence at our mind's structure, what does that mean? It means to look without judging, to look without trying to get rid of something. You must have had the same experience I've had many times, which is, I'm going to look at this old thought pattern that's coming up so that it will go away. I'm going to do this so that it will disappear. But is that what presence is doing? Is it doing anything? What can presence or consciousness or awareness do anyway? And when we notice, when we look, it's just looking. And it doesn't seem to be enough to our mind, because the mind says that if I just look at something, it's never going to go away. I'm just going to be bombarded by all these thoughts, and there'll be so much to just look at, but nothing will change. But if we can examine this idea that there's anything other than looking or seeing that we can do, that we can, the recognition that we can only see, the separate sense of self or mind is going to really begin to be able to dissolve this rigid structure that it has, that keeps on thinking the same old thoughts over and over. For me, this was one of the most frustrating points in my awakening, the recognition that all I could do was see. It felt powerless, in fact. How am I going to fix anything? But then somehow the I in that sentence, all I can do is see, began to shift into something different, a sense of something very, very different. What happens when presence sees? What happens when you look at something that is dysfunctional in the mind, when you look as presence? Can simply seeing that something is untrue really cause us to shift and have a different experience? And we might see many times that the sense of separation isn't true, but then immediately try to go into some kind of action in order to get rid of it. Have we ever really allowed ourselves to just see that it's not true? The power of simply seeing. Immediately, the very first time that you see or even have a momentary glimpse, just a nanosecond of what awareness is, what presence is. And we can do that right now. We can ask this question, am I present? Or am I aware right now? Whichever one you like best. Am I present? There's something that stops and checks, right? When you ask that question, am I present? Or do I exist? There's not a thought process. There's a stopping and a seeing, a looking, a recognition, a knowing. I am here. I am present. It doesn't even matter right now what we're present as, just a recognition, a looking and seeing. Or if you like it better, we can ask, am I aware right now? If you ask that question of yourself, am I aware right now? And there's a checking, a seeing, not a doing, not a thinking, a checking and a seeing that something is aware, something is aware. Awareness is present of what you're seeing through your visual field, what you're hearing through your ears, these words. What if that one simple thing that just happened, this seeing, this checking, is the most powerful of all? We have tended to negate it, to not value it, to say, well, just seeing is largely useless. Actually, I need to do something. Seeing that awareness is here, seeing that we are awareness, seeing that we are presence. The very moment that even for a nanosecond that we recognize awareness is what we are, then it's immediately starting this collapse, this dissolution of this rigid structure of the separate sense of self, a tangled bunch of thoughts, what I think about myself, you, everything, everyone, the world, what I think about awakening, whether it's going well or not going well. Immediately, that begins to dissolve because you cannot see who you really are and still hold on with the same tenacity. This egoic or mind structure of the separate being takes a lot of energy to sustain it. Constantly, we're having to feed it energy. So there was a shift that began to happen to recognize the power of seeing. And that's what I'd like to bring forth here. Seeing what I am really, formless, empty awareness, presence, pure intelligence before form that is everywhere and indivisible. The same presence that animates your body, animates this body. And then also seeing what we are not. So the next time some sense of separation, what do I do to keep this seeing that I've just had? How do I hold on to this? says the mind. To see that can't be true, that I have to hold on to it if I am it. And the mind says, okay, but I'm going to lose this. There's nothing I can do to keep it. I'm going to lose this seeing. And we seem to experience that. But again, just looking at that, just seeing, do I have to hold on to this? Can I lose it? Is it something someone has given me, or is it a direct looking and seeing awareness? Presence is here right now. Something is present that is me. Whatever that is, I am most certainly present. I am not absent. And then beginning to value this, that even the tiniest moment of noticing the presence of presence or awareness is beginning to take out the scaffolding from underneath the mind structure and beginning to undo its stability, its rigidity of the way it thinks. What if seeing, just seeing something, is your superpower? If we really take that in, if we really let that sink in, we begin to recognize that even if there's a strong sense of a someone that still feels it's got to do lots of things, just to witness that sense of a person when it rises and when it needs to do something, and just to witness it, just to see it from presence, where we're not trying to get rid of it, we're just discerning and recognizing it's not who I am. The mind would have a thought that says, that's not who I am. And then it would try to get rid of something, try to get rid of itself. But the presence, when it looks, it says, that's just simply not true. This is what's true about me, and this is not true. What if the act of doing this again and again and again in these micro moments is turning your whole awakening around? And if we look at any authentic spiritual practice, it's simply a different way, another way to just see. Meditation, as we practice here, is just bringing attention back to what is just seeing that we're seeing, just noticing that which is just here and isn't doing anything, couldn't do anything. So also another way to see practice is to see who we are not. When we do some self-inquiry, contemplation, it shows us exactly who we are and who we are not. So we could take a pause there and recognize the value of just seeing. That this seeing is the immensity of that which sustains the whole universe. On one side of a coin, it's recognizing itself to be formless presence, awareness. And the other side, it's recognizing itself to be not at all what it thought it was. Not really a person, actually. And everything that comes with that. But it's both just seeing what I am, seeing what I'm not. That is what makes a difference in any authentic awakening. And yet, it's never going to be the popular choice with the mind. We have a seeing, then the mind says, okay, what do I do about that? Now that I've seen, what do I do with that? How do I use this? What do I apply this? How do I apply this? And then goes about thinking about what to do with what's seen. Would the mind really know, though, if the seeing has already started the dissolution? Really, From the very first time you even had a glimpse of who you are, the clock was ticking, and the sand in the hourglass is running out. And when it's gone, there's no more separation. Cannot be stopped. It's just going to run through and come to the end. A process has begun of withdrawing energy from the mind, because we're seeing that that's not really who we are. Nothing wrong with the mind, but it's talking about who you are not. Have you noticed that all of the thoughts that the mind brings forth are about trying to get somewhere or do something or achieve something? Even if the mind talks about you, the presence, it can only talk about you. It can't really see who you actually are. So what if this one tiny thing of recognizing what is always here, then recognizing what really isn't here, this separate person, that it's not actually real, that my life and my awakening simply are not the ultimate truth. Simply to recognize that, to realize, what if that is your secret weapon that we haven't really valued so much? It's like we're riding around on this really, really old bicycle that's falling apart. We're trying to get all this stuff done. And yet we have this chauffeur-driven limousine that will take us wherever we want to go in comfort and quietness. And the chauffeur is telling us this is much faster and easier, and actually works. And the bike, we keep getting back on it, right? The bicycle. I certainly did. I think I was going around in circles for the longest time. And then I turned around and went backwards on the bike, right? I was trying not to do something. I was not doing anything, which of course was a form of imaginary doing also. Finally, this penny dropped, this aha moment of what if seeing is enough? What if every time we check and see, is the presence here? We're cutting down the time remaining on the clock to living as this just seeing, seeing who you are, seeing who you're not, seeing who you are ever more clearly, seeing who you're not ever more clearly. This is what's true for me. Formless, infinite presence. This has never been true for me. It's not true now, and it never has been. If you do that enough, it's actually impossible to keep sustaining the sense of separation. You just lose interest in it. Even the spiritual person, the spiritual, the awakening person who is trying to clear all its karmic patterns and stabilize as presence and embody presence and all of those other things, to keep it, to hold on to it, to deepen into it. These are all the things my imaginary person was trying to do for the longest time. Finally, this recognition, just seeing. A willingness to see, we all have willingness to see who we are, but a willingness to see who we are not, what has never been true for us. We don't even need to know what that is. I'm just willing to see. Most of all, willing to recognize the power of just seeing. That whatever you look at from presence begins to look more and more like presence. Even the mind, even a separate sense of self. Whatever you look at as love, as the infinite love, is love. It's transformed. Not really transformed, perhaps you just see it clearly for the first time. It's not this thought, this emotion, this other person, this pain, this contraction. It's not really at all what I thought it was. I see what it really is now. I see what the mind is made of, presence. And you could look 150,000 times as an imaginary person, and it has no effect at all. You could look once as the presence, and it begins to allow all this structure of our separate self to fall away. It's not what we're taught to value, a microsecond of seeing presence, recognizing presence, or the sense that I am. That which hears the words I am, or sees the thought I am, is the real I am. What we've always just labeled me, Just a moment of recognizing the I am, or whatever is awake to these words. What is it that's sentient and awake to these words? Recognizing these words. To see that just for a moment, that it's not a person at all. That we can't find a thing. When we ask what is aware of these words coming in through our ears and the visual field of stimuli, what is it that notices that? We don't find a someone. From that point forward, there's only a certain amount of time left before it all collapses, because you're pulling, every time you see who you are, you're pulling out the support and unplugging it, and the battery is running down. And every time you see again and again and again who you really are, that time left is shortening and shortening and shortening and shortening because of this immensity of the power of seeing. And I'm repeating this a little bit because for me, it didn't really hit me. Oh yeah, I've seen I am awareness. What's next? What do I do now? What comes after that? See it again. Okay, now I've done that. I've done it 10 times. What next? If I see I am awareness, I am presence, I am the I am, naturally that's going to have an effect on this sense that I'm just not good enough. It's going to begin to undermine that totally. But let's just take one more micro moment to check and see. Is awareness here? Are you aware right now? Are you present or absent? There is a presence of you, and it is aware and sentient. It knows, it sees. With your eyes open, you know what the visual field is showing you. With your eyes closed, you still know, but there's no thing to see with your eyes closed. Now there's things, now there's no things. Things, but you know you're aware either way. By the way, did you know that that just shortened this timeline? Just seeing? And by the way, did you know that when you try to do something, it actually puts extra time on the clock? Not really, don't worry. But it certainly doesn't shorten, it keeps it there. Even the sense of a doer, as someone that really needs to do something. You know, that itch that you can't scratch inside your being, can't quite get rid of. The sense of a doer that's stressed out about everything. Most of all, stressed out about awakening. Even just to see the doer arise in all of its glory is pulling the plug out from underneath this. So I hope I've inspired you to perhaps look at something that you might have undervalued. And the mind will never recognize the value of just seeing, but you can, because you are the seeing, you are the seer. Silent, present awareness, knowingness, consciousness, before form. Whatever you look at changes. There's no way for it to be anything other than that. So I went on a bit longer than I thought. Yeah, so I will open it up for questions. I go on a rant again. If anyone has anything they would like to share, or any questions or anything they're struggling with, please feel free to raise your hand. Vicky?
Hello, Helen. I want to say, first I want to say hi. I'm such a big
Hi.
fan. I love your eyes. Like your eyes look so dark and I guess like mysterious.
Thank
It's
you.
just they're just. I feel like your spiritual practice comes through your eyes, you know. But anyway, so that's that. But
Thank
I
you.
just really want to say something because I'm such a big fan. But so I guess what I want to ask is, recently I've been getting into not what do you call it, like striving, not there's a word for it, like not seeking. So I've been trying to not seek,
Yeah.
and I think it's gotten me results because like 2 days ago I met this guy like in my life that wasn't is an awakened person, and that's never happened before, and he showed me like a lot of synchronicities, and
Mm,
just so it's working for me. But like I watched one of Angelo's videos, um and he said that meditation does meditation. There's no person doing meditation, and
mhm,
self-inquiry is doing self-inquiry. There's no person doing it. And so basically he's saying that keep doing these things and keep doing them as much as you can, but still like but still you can not seek while you're doing these things. And I'm just kind of confused because like when I'm doing these things, it feels like I'm trying. It feels like I like because I'm bad at meditations. Like I feel like I'm just sitting there trying to stay awake. So can you just kind of teach us how to stop seeking? Oh,
just a
sorry,
nice,
and
just a nice,
it's
easy
my
question.
video.
Yeah. Um, whenever we're doing, oh, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Whenever we're doing any kind of spiritual practice, there's usually two motivations why we're doing it. The first is that we're, as you said, we're trying to get somewhere, right? We're trying to seek something that we think isn't here right now. And that might be peace or abundance or awakening, whatever it is that we're seeking. So we sit down to meditate the same or do self-inquiry. Um, but we can also look at the second reason. If we ask, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this meditation as an example? The first answer will be because I should, or I'm supposed to, or it's going to get me to freedom. But if we keep on asking that why question, we'll find there's another motivation there that is not that the first motivation is bad, but there's a higher motivation, which is I'm doing it because I want to see what's actually true. I want to recognize what's true, like we were just talking about with the seeing. And we just gently favor that one, right? We don't reject the other motivation. We're just gently favoring, leaning towards, I actually just want to see what's true. That's why I'm inquiring. That's why I'm meditating. And it just takes the power out of the seeking. And it's more, instead of trying to get somewhere, I'm doing this to get somewhere, it's more an interest in what's already here right now. You're just spending 5 minutes or a couple of minutes, whatever you can, before you do your practice, and just checking, why am I actually doing this? But, the mind will have lots of answers, but just you feel something open up when you ask this, right? Wonderful.
Well, I think that's a really good answer because, like, for me, I kind of got into non-duality when my grandma almost died. And I was just thinking about, like, why do I exist? Like, what's the purpose of this existence? Like, I gotta find it out. But I think I kind of lost that, like, over time. So thank you for reminding me again, because that is ultimately the reason why I started this journey in the first place, because I want to figure out, like, why I exist. But yeah, thank you so much.
The seekingness comes up, the seeker comes up as well, just to be seen, right? If you just see it. And then you recognize this purer motivation is still there, right? I just want to know what this is all about, what is actually true. So not judging the seeking when it pops up, just choosing gently something else instead. Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you. Um, Keith,
Hello, Helen.
hi.
Um, I liked what you were saying about being present and like, but what I don't get is when I say, am I aware or am I present? How can I know that without being in the separate body? Like, it's the separate body in the brain and the senses that detects something going on, and so I guess that's where I feel like I'm detecting my awareness through this body, and then you're saying there's the body doesn't. Well, I'm not really here. That's where I get confused. The individual self, there's this body detecting. I don't know. I'm confused.
Let's ask this question. Am I aware? And see what
Mhm.
happens, right? What happens when you ask this question? Am I aware right now?
Yeah, I mean, if I can sense and I'm aware of the
So
noises around.
you said
See,
I can sense I am
yeah,
aware. You didn't say I think I'm
no,
aware. It wasn't a
exactly.
mind or brain thing, right?
I sense it, but I sense it through this body, right? That's where I'm
Do
confused.
you?
Well,
Is that awareness that you sense is here? Is
mm,
it visible? Is it something you can see with your eyes?
no,
Is it tangible? Can you pick it up with your hands?
no,
Does it have any smell or taste or color?
no. But it feels like a feeling, though.
It has a feeling response in the body, but if we just go right to awareness itself, let's ask again, am I aware right now? There's
Hmm.
something that kind of stops and looks and checks. Can you see that?
Yes, yes.
And it's so quick. It's so quick. It's not a thought process. It's not a feeling either, awareness, is it? When we notice awareness is present, it gives us a feeling, a nice feeling response in the body.
Yes.
But that's a secondary thing. We can enjoy it, of course. But the first primary thing is something stops and recognizes the presence of awareness.
Mm.
And if we really look that we're not, we'll see that we're not really using our body or our senses to recognize the presence of awareness. Let's slow it right down. Let's look again. Is awareness here? Yeah, something is knowing, seeing.
Yes. Yeah.
But can I pin it down what that awareness is? Is it anything I can know at all with my body and mind? Or is it a bit more like a mystery?
Well, like I said, it still feels like a feeling that I'm sensing through the body.
But that feeling is also noticed by
Oh,
awareness.
I see. The
Yeah.
noticing of the feeling.
Yeah. Something is noticing, something is aware, even of this feeling in the body.
So it's not so much the feeling in the body, it's the what's noticing the feeling in the body.
Yeah, yeah. Doing great. So
Mm.
That which notices, it's not really locatable with the senses, by the senses or the mind. It's something else already noticing. We're noticing the noticing, right?
Yes.
And that's bypassing the body and mind. Nothing wrong with the body and mind, but they can't recognize that awareness is here. They can feel the effect of that. It feels really nice in the body. The body relaxes a little when we notice.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's enough just to be able to disprove something. I thought I was noticing awareness with my body or my mind. When I look, actually, it's not really so.
Mm. Yes. Because I related to what you were saying earlier about, am I aware yet? Now what?
Yeah. Yeah. That was me right now. Well, that's boring. Awareness is
Okay,
here.
now what?
So yeah. What's the next thing on my to-do list today? A big long spiritual to-do list. Yeah. But
But
just
there's
to
something.
savor that, just to recognize that something within me, something that is me, can recognize the noticing, the awareness.
Hmm.
And then just gently, gently curious, what is that? Just taking that into a little inquiry each day. What is it that sees awareness? If it's not my mind, if it's not my body and senses, if it's something even quicker than the mind, a looking and a seeing, I just know it's here. Yeah, but kind of how? How do I know? Just playing with that question
Okay.
begins to really shift something.
Yeah, I feel really peaceful right now. Thank you. That was lovely.
Even though we don't know how, we're noticing awareness is here. The peace is here because I'm not actually buying this idea that's my mind anymore, or my body that's recognizing it.
Hmm.
Suddenly I don't know how I'm knowing that awareness is here. And there's a real opening in that, a peace.
Hmm. Yeah, I see the difference between feeling it and what, yeah, we'll forget what it was now. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Enjoy the peace. Yeah,
matter.
you look like
No,
you can't even be bothered at the moment, right? I'm just gonna enjoy the peace.
no,
Yeah.
thank you, Helen. That was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Good to talk to you. Thanks. Grace. Hi, love.
Hi,
Hi.
just gonna lower my hand. Thank you. So I have been having question, and I know it might be coming from the mind, but just because it feels it's been like a little bit obsessive for
Mhm.
this last few days. So I feel I just wanna put it here anyway. So it's just like the question, because usually when you guide us into like to find the most prominent emotion,
Mhm.
and from that to find the question for contemplation or even self inquiry, I believe. So I'm finding it a little bit conflicting for me, like whether it's guilt or fear.
Yeah.
And something about when I refer in like to A Course in Miracles, since I used to read in that book. I remember a whole section about the guiltless word, like, and the guilt in the mind. But also, I remember like when it says like there is only one opposite to love, which is fear. And I feel somehow when I track my emotion, the prominent emotion, it feels it's infused with both. It's fear of, and because there is guilt, so and it's becoming more okay. So what is the question here? What's the question that I'm gonna use? And it takes me into spiral every time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For me, there was a time when I really realized that they're so linked, right? If I don't feel good enough, if I feel guilty or ashamed, like there's something wrong with me, that deep sense, I'm going to try really hard to be better, to make myself better, and I'll fail because there isn't really anything wrong with me. But because I seem to fail, then I'll feel even more unsafe, and there'll be more fear. So I'll try even harder to improve myself. I'll even turn to awakening to try to improve myself. And it's really a cycle, as you said, that goes around, right? Fear and guilt,
Or shame.
shame, yeah, whatever frequency really. But if you can see that they're both the same, then looking at either one of them is going to undo the whole cycle. So for me, I spent some time looking at fear and, is it really true I'm not safe? And then I spent another probably 2 months looking at the sense of guilt and this sense that there's something fundamentally flawed. Is it really true I'm not good enough? And I had a sense that when I was working with either of those questions and emotions, that all of it was coming down. But I just needed to look from both angles, from fear and from guilt. And it doesn't really matter which comes first, right? It's just if it has two support legs, one is fear and one is guilt, whichever one we pull out, it's going to start to fall down. And then we pull the other one out, as well. And noticing most of all, the mind is going to try to run around in circles, delaying this by asking lots of questions like, I can't even figure out which emotion it is. It's probably both all the time, right?
Which brings anger, another emotion. So
Yeah, the mind says, we're not getting anywhere. Let's get angry too, right? And then there's a whole heap of stuff for me to work with. Yeah.
yeah, but it feels like somehow like this makes me also wonder, which is the second part of my question is when you speak that so everything is already like it should be already like safe reality to which means that the self that is desiring all this. I mean, how can I say this? Somehow the way it hits me that if it's safe, so I should relax around the idea that it's not like there is the self is not desiring something opposite to waking up. It should be only desiring waking up, but something still feels in the way though. So what maybe another way to say like what is that emotion that keeps pulling me back into the illusion? Like why it feels there is opposite desire to waking up? What is that force?
It's there's obviously this desire for the infinite self to recognize itself, but there's also a counteracting desire, an opposite desire to keep things the same, right? That's coming from the seeking or the imaginary separate self. So one's going this way, the other one's going this way. And for a while, they seem very much equal and opposite, and to cancel each other out. Not a lot seems to really happen. But as we start to see the power of who we actually are, as I was saying earlier, the power of just seeing who we really are, then we begin to realize this desire to wake up is 100 million times more powerful. The only reason they've seemed equal is because we thought they were. We thought the seeker was very real and that the resistance it offers to the awakening process is actually going to stop something. When we start to doubt that, something can really move.
So not even to identify with either desire.
Yeah, just to recognize this one is coming from the infinite self, this one's coming from the self that doesn't actually exist. So I don't need to worry about it so much. It can't really, a non-existent entity exerting some non-existent resistance is going to have a non-existent effect.
Well, thanks.
Right.
So because this somehow reminds me of maybe the fear of like in the religion when there is the belief that there are two forces like God and the devil, or like there are two like good and evil. So
But there
somehow
really isn't two. There's no opposite to love. Fear is love in disguise. The devil is God in disguise. There's only one. There's only one.
Yeah. So it's just a play that we watch, and
Until we're not so interested, right?
so
Until
that's
we
another
bring
thing when
more attention, more curiosity,
yeah,
more interest into what's actually already true about us.
like even Helen, when you say it, until we bring more in like, curiosity, more interest, like who is even valuing this more? Like
You are the only thing that exists, God, awareness, presence. You are. Less and less are you interested in playing with this imaginary person anymore. More and more, you're more interested, excited by just being who you always have been and seeing what that really means, that nothing can stop you from waking up and seeing who you are.
and this valuing just happens. It's not like even about doing it, trying to value
It's
something.
just arising, right? And this is why you're even asking this question. It's what's driving this question, you know? We're starting to really see that playing with the seeking doesn't really bring us what we want. And we have seen it and we have seen it and we have seen it. And each time we see that doesn't work, it just brings more disturbance. Something is gently coming to prefer looking at what's already here, which is why we find ourselves meditating and self-inquiring, contemplating. The very fact that these things are even appealing to us, that we want to do them, is showing a significant shift in who we know ourselves to be. The mind won't recognize that, though. It'll say, you're not getting anywhere. Wonderful.
So this obsession about trying to find out the main emotion and to find the main question is just maybe another trick by the mind.
A delay tactic, right, from the mind. Just pick one of the emotions and start, and all this will just kind of fall away. The obsessive thinking about it.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. So we'll go to Anne.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, love.
I think I probably mentioned this before. It's my current theme of. Oh, hang on. You've asked me to start my video. Hang on. Where is it? There I am.
Here we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
What was I saying?
Your current theme, you were saying.
Yes. Of this, I'm getting a sense that I've repressed a lot of emotions, a lot of trauma story, but it's coming up quite strongly at times. It can go from black to white. 1 minute I'm okay, and the next minute there's this surge of emotion to the point where it feels quite physical in my heart. It actually hurts. It's like, well, is this a physical pain or is this emotional pain? It's like my heart's breaking. Like, when you kind of have an ending of a relationship or your first boyfriend, it's like that is the only thing I can compare it to. And also with that, there's resistance and fear coming up, like, what the hell is this? And in terms of the talk, which was amazing, about doing and not doing sort of thing, just seeing, I've been trying to just see, but it does come to me sometimes to maybe take it to therapy, to get help with kind of accepting these emotions. And I don't know where, obviously I'm not looking for a decision from you, but how do you think that would play out in terms of awakening and doing therapy? Are they opposites, or
Absolutely
have you ever tried
not.
it? Yeah.
It can be very supportive of the awakening process, to look at something in that way as well. I did in my journey. After I've begun to see who I was, I had this big story that kept coming up that I just needed a little help untangling, and so I could just look at it, they're not, it's not detrimental to awakening at all. If it feels right for you, then it feels right for you. The one thing I would say from what you've said about the pain becoming like a physical pain, you said that there's the intensity of emotion, which is felt as physical pain sometimes in that heart area. And then there's resistance and fear. But I'd like to say it's not actually the intensity of the emotion that's bothering you, it's resisting it that is causing the challenge. The body can deal with 1,000 times more energy and emotion moving than we're currently used to. And it's coming strongly because your awakening is succeeding, because you're losing the sense of a separate being that would repress it and sit on it. Like,
Yeah.
I can't cope with this. I'm just gonna sit on it, put it down over here and squash it away. Because that's all we're really we already don't really know what to do. Fortunately, we're not taught really as children how to really be with an emotion, to feel it. So if you can come to see it's the resistance that's causing these challenges and the physical pain rather than the emotion itself, we can begin to gently look at, why am I resisting this emotion? When I asked myself this question, the answer was it's too big, it's gonna overwhelm me. When I allow myself to feel it, I'm gonna open some floodgates that I can never close again. Open Pandora's box, right? The fear was like this, it would just seem so strong. But I still remember the very first time I actually intended to just feel it, to go into it, to open up to it. What does it actually feel like in my body when I move towards this as much as I can in this moment rather than resisting? Because if I resist it, I'm being a person who's resisting this emotion. And that's when the body struggles, when it looks like pain, feels like pain. So the emotion itself, the body knows exactly what to do with. It will cry, it will laugh, it will shake, it will walk, it will stretch, it will yawn. Sometimes a few of those at the same time. But the resistance as a person is what's most challenging.
Yeah, I totally get. I mean, I do more and more trying. That's my practice, really. I've got it written down everywhere. Allow. Can I allow this? Can I allow this?
No, that's great.
But the
And now
difficulty is, sorry.
I was just going to say, now just asking, gently asking to see why we're resisting it. Just to see these ideas. It's going to overwhelm me. Okay, well, who's the me in that sentence? The body knows what to do with that emotion, and the infinite presence is certainly not overwhelmed.
I think, can I just say that you've just stirred something, a memory there, and I hadn't seen. And I think the fear is that when I did used to have emotions when I was younger, before I repressed them, they did overwhelm me. And even now when I'm having them, I have to lay on the bed, and I'm quite I'm not functional.
So again, we can notice, even as a child, this sense of separation was there. They're my emotions, and I'm going to struggle with them if they're mine as a person. And we can ask, when it starts to come, we can ask, what is aware of this emotion? If attention lingers on the emotion itself, it's going to get bigger and feel less and less manageable. If even for a nanosecond we can bring attention back and back to what's aware of it.
Okay.
Then when attention is on awareness or presence, you cannot resist the emotion. The body can cope much better with it.
Okay, because I have thought that might be bypassing a little bit when I'm feeling it. I'm just trying to feel it rather than pull myself back to awareness. But you're saying that I can
not feel it. You have to feel it when your attention is on that which cannot resist. Awareness, presence cannot resist. Actually, living as a separate being is the ultimate bypassing. We bypass everything when we think we're a separate being. We cannot look at it. We don't know what to do with it. So This is actually authenticity. I'm going to bring attention to what is aware of this intensity of emotion, and the body can allow this energy to move like it needs to, and it'll begin to shift and dissipate. Going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. I'm just seeing that we're right on time. Thank you so much. And I don't know where the hour goes so quickly. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your wonderful questions.